Hey, Mike here, Life Hacks in Real Estate. Someone asked me why I'm always talking about buying and selling on terms, right? Well, here's a good reason. First, I don't want to have to go and jump through a lot of hoops and beg a bank to make me to give me a loan. Second of all, I'm self-employed, which is kind of part of the first reason, right? You see, I pay my bills. I've got excellent credit, but I take my deductions and my write-offs as any flag-waving, God-fearing American would, right? That's a God-given right. I mean, whether you love him or hate him, people got mad at Trump because he took his deductions. He didn't write the tax code. That's what's there, right? But therefore, when I apply for a loan at the bank, they may say, well, after your tax write-offs, you don't make enough money to qualify. And in fact, I recently went and applied for a bank loan. I was going to buy a new car, which I ended up buying, because sometimes you need a car. I'm not a car guy. I don't, some people buy cars because they love them and they want to impress people. I don't care. But I need it. So I decided to go and I went to the credit union because I didn't want to tie up a bunch of cash. Right now, they're still giving decent rates. So I went ahead and gave them my information, did the credit application, and then they called me back and said, well, I don't know if you're going to qualify after tax deductions. I was like, what? What are you talking about? In fact, I was a little bit shocked. I was like, is there something wrong with my credit? She said, oh, no, your credit's excellent. I'm like, well, what about this? What about that? What about this income? What about that income? She goes, yeah, but I see it on your tax return, but we don't know if after your deductions, if you can afford it. Isn't that stupid when they can't make a decision? So I went ahead and wrote a check for the whole thing, paid for the whole darn thing. Now, I guess because I was kind of mad right there. But sometimes, let's go back to buying a house. The reason I like terms is because sometimes lenders, they've got guidelines that don't always make sense. You see, many times people when they're trying to buy houses, they may deal with the same stuff. And you're out there dealing with them, they may have a great down payment. Okay. In fact, I've just learned when I'm asking for down payments not to say, this is what I want down. When they say, what do you want? I say, I'm somewhat flexible. What do you have to work with? Because they may actually have a lot more that I'm looking for, right? But again, they deal with the same type of crap and the same stuff. So they've got a great down payment. You can see they have a good income, and they can definitely afford the monthly payment, right? But perhaps the bank denies them a loan. I read a statistic a while back. I think it was around 30% of the people, or maybe it's 35% of the people right now in the United States cannot get a bank loan. Isn't that crazy? Like, if they've got a good verifiable income and a good job, you should be willing to do it. Another thing about selling on terms is, again, like I just said, you've got, with a third of the people in the U.S. not being able to qualify for a loan, guess what? We've got a huge buyer's pool. We've got a big pool of people that can't get a bank loan under any circumstances. But again, they've got large chunks of cash and they're ready to go. They're ready to buy. Who am I to turn them down? Think of it. A third of America. If you're going to be in any type of business, you want to be in a business where, turn my heat down. You want to be in a business where you've got a people waiting for your business. In other words, if you're only selling pogo sticks to one-legged guys who are named George, that's a limited amount of people that are one-legged and named George, right? Let alone one pogo stick. But we've got a huge market. Bill Gates, when he got so rich, he developed when he released Windows, it was because it went for the personal computer. And guess what? Everybody wanted a personal computer. They just didn't know it. They started marketing it. Apple started marketing it. And all of a sudden, somebody got a computer and they told their brother-in-law, and they told their sister-in-law, and they told their neighbor, and they told their friend named Ted, and on and on and on. So back to buying and selling on terms. Let's do a comparison. I can sell a house for cash. I can. But if I sell the house for cash, I get the money now, right? Then what? Well, it's gone. I'm going to spend it. The deal's over. Now I'm looking for the next deal. Now I can go and reinvest it. And I know you can, and I've done this a lot. But when you sell a house for cash, boom, one time, it's over. Maybe that's what you want to do. But the other way that I like to sell a house is where I become the bank. Do you know what that means when I become the bank? Have you ever noticed how fancy and how nice the banks are? How they got the marble floors and the 9 or 10 foot ceilings, and they've got all the people dressed in fancy. And when you walk in there, they're like, hello, can I help you? And that type of stuff, right? That's because they're making just a ton of money. You know what they do? They have people like you and me put our money in the bank. Then they pay us peanuts. What are you going to get on your loan? What are you going to get on my savings account? We're going to give you 2%. We're going to give you 2.4. If you'll tie it up for 5 years, we'll go 4%. Guess what they do with your money? They reloan the money back out, and they make a profit off what's called the spread. The spread is simply, if they loan it out, if you put your money in the bank, you put your money in the bank and they pay you, say, $400 in interest, and they loan it out and they make back $1,200 in interest, they make a $800 spread by loaning out your money, my money, right? When you sell a house on terms, you usually make about $3. So hear me out. Usually you make about $3 for every dollar that it's worth. Think about that. So if you're making the $3 for every one you put out instead of the bank, isn't that better? So if you take a $100,000 house and you sell on terms, you're probably going to get back $300,000. Where does that $200,000 go to? Does it go to the bank's marble floors and 10-foot ceilings and to buy the bank president a new Lincoln? No, it goes to the hip National Bank. You see, again, if you were going to sell a $100,000 house on terms and let that baby ride every month when they make a payment, if you actually run an amortization chart and you run that schedule, when they make a big old payment, a little bit it comes off the house, but the big old amount goes to the bank in interest. How would you feel if that big old amount is going to you, going to me? I like it, right? So if I decide to sell a house with me becoming the bank, I get to also be the loan approval committee. What do you mean? Well, I get to have a meeting with myself and I say things like, well, here's a credit app. Guess what I look at? First thing I look at, what type of down payment they have. They're broke, turned down. They got a big down payment, they're going to be considered. Of course, I still have to look at their past history. If they have bad credit, is it really bad credit, or was it just some things that possibly happened, right? These things do happen. I also want to see, do they have a verifiable income, a verifiable job? And again, when I'm the loan committee, do you realize I get to set the monthly payment? I get to set the interest rate. I get to set the overall price. I get to decide how much I need for a down payment. So sometimes I have a meeting and I say, well, Mike, what are we looking for as a down payment on this one? Well, if they come into me and they say, I've got $15,000 down, I've got $20,000 down, I've got $18,000 down. There's strong possibilities, right? If they come to me and they go, I've got $500, I'm renting, but I really need a place to live. Well, they get to go to your house. They're not going to mine, right? Because I am, again, the loan approval committee. Not long ago, I had a self-employed person who wanted to buy a house, and the bank had told him no. He got a hold of me, and again, he called off my ad, and I've told this story before. It's true. It happens all the time. He called me up, and he said, well, what are you wanting for? They always want to know two things. How much do you want down as a down payment, and how much do you want as a monthly payment? And I always give my standard pat answer. You probably heard me talk before. You've heard this. Well, I'm somewhat flexible. What do you have to work with? I just shut up, and he said, I've got $20,000. Now, he was a roofer, if I recall. He was self-employed. So I just paused, and I said kind of casually, well, I could probably work with that. Now, inside, I was like, yes, because the guy's going to bring over $20,000, which he did, by the way, in green money, in a box, which we counted in a vacant house. Me, him, and his wife. It was pretty cool. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It takes a while to count 20,000, but I'm willing to put up with that type of pain and suffering. I really am. Well, here's the cool thing. I've told this story before. This just happened again almost exactly 2 weeks ago to a guy that I work with.